It turns out that the secret to successful dating, to dating well, to having good dating etiquette, to being successful in your love life is actually quite simple, but it involves approaching dating from a different way than what we've been doing. You know, there's that saying, don't do more necessarily, just do differently. So while I approach my own dating life completely differently to how I've ever done before, I want to share some of these secrets with you. And this is stuff that I have learned through podcasts, listening to psychologists, reading up about love from matchmaking experts, and also just from experience. So I hope that this can be of help to you as well, because I actually do think that this is going to be transformative in how we date, because ultimately we date to meet people. Relationship means to relate to other people. And just like looking for a job, it's about networking. It's about putting yourself out there and trying to get as many potential suitors into the funnel to be able to actually just get that one person, your person that you can ultimately marry and build a family and build that vision and that life with. So let's get into it. This is some dating etiquette to embrace. Number one is to genuinely express interest and excitement in spending more time together and hanging out more with the person that you're dating. It is amazing how much of modern society has taught us to play games, to play hard to get, to not look too keen, to, you know, be this cool cat really, to play it cool. And the problem is that a lot of us, especially if you're dating from a place of chastity, especially in a Christian context, we are friend zoning people accidentally, and then we're friend zoning ourselves because we're not actually expressing this genuine excitement for the other person. So here is to bringing back that authenticity of like, I had a really lovely time today. And look, I'm all about the woman being the kind of receiver and allowing the man to pursue. I think that's really lovely, but I also know that we have to drop the hanky. We have to, as women, really encourage and also help to build up our men so that they are confident. You know, like being a man and asking a woman out takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of confidence and self-assurance and the ability to really bounce back, because rejection, no one likes rejection. And as much as I really am a firm believer that rejection is God's redirection to something better, bigger, and more aligned with your purpose, it still hurts. Whether that is a job that didn't fit with your kind of capabilities, a person that you liked but it was unrequited, or, you know, other opportunities and things that just didn't go the way that you wanted. And of course, God says, you know, to not lean on our own understanding, and how like we as man make plans, but he actually establishes our steps. So we have to be open to the fact that our plans, our timings may not always be what we think. Anyway, that is a side note to just say that we really do need to express interest. So as women, it's really expressing that gratitude, that appreciation, that respect of, you know, this was a really lovely date. Thank you so much for planning it for us. I would love to go on another one soon. I personally wouldn't want to have to ask the man out. I wouldn't want to say, can we do this again? So I would leave it more open-ended, but in a very obvious hint kind of way, you know, just exactly that, like, this was so great. Or something like, going to see exhibitions with you is so much fun. You know, just something that helps to show this was great, I'm interested in doing it again, and continue that line, because otherwise you might just end up friend zoning. I don't know what it is about modern life as well, but so many of us have like 100 unread WhatsApp messages. We're in about 50 groups. We miss things, and it's like out of sight, out of mind, because we're so inattentive and we have like attention deficit because we are being completely served content all the time, you know, like reels, videos, like even these videos on YouTube, right? Apparently, if you don't capture the person within the first 5 seconds, you've like lost them, and you pretty much lose the majority of views by like 25 seconds in. This is the world that we're living in, and this is how we've trained our brains. So like we really need to encourage each other when we're dating someone that we actually like, to reassure them that we actually do like them and we want to do this again. And number 2 is to not bother playing games. Like, actually don't. It's a bit of a subcategory of number 1, but there's no point. If you're someone who likes constant communication, who enjoys a daily text or a morning text, a lunchtime text, an afternoon text, Don't try to pretend that you're someone who can go 3 days without texting the person that you're dating, because hopefully this dating is going to turn into a relationship, and this person could end up being your person. And it's going to be so deceptive for them if they thought you were someone who only texted, you know, once every 3 days. And then suddenly, like, you are really desiring to hear from them constantly throughout their work day. So I would avoid games, because you're actually training someone how to treat you. And you might be doing it because you want to be cool, you want to look, you know, nonchalant or whatever it is. But it actually is just giving that other person the wrong idea of actually your own expectations of communication. And I have done this. And then suddenly you enter into a relationship and it's like they're with someone completely different. So don't bother playing it cool if you actually like someone, and just be yourself in terms of the communication needs and styles that you really enjoy. And you can talk about it as well, because you might not be aligned on that. One of you might be a phone person and the other one isn't. One of you might like voice notes. I put my hand up for that. And the other one might not. You know, one person might like doing lengthy texts on WhatsApp web, and the other one just wants to do video calls. So it's a really good conversation to have at some point in your dating journey. Number 3 is to connect your intuition to your dating life. And what do I mean by that? I mean, really listen to your gut. And if you're a person of faith, you also believe that the Holy Spirit is leading you and guiding you. The Holy Spirit will be, you know, making you feel these feelings of peace or restlessness or something to help you discern if this is the right thing to do. But in order to be in a position to really hear your intuition, you have to be grounded. And that may mean, you know, being like well physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, like being at a place of centeredness and balance, so that you're not putting out desperate energy. You're not also operating from a place of desperateness, because when you are doing that from desperation, it's really difficult to actually discern if someone or something is right for you, because you are just coming from a place of scarcity, right? If you can be in a place of joy, fulfillment, and just living your best life, right? And like I said, this groundedness, you're more able to tap into that gut feeling. And you will know, your body will tell you if this is the right person. And, you know, of course, you have to discern between like nerves and excitement, or just anxiety and dread. You know, like sometimes it can be hard. It's actually a hard line, but yeah, the more focused you are on trusting yourself and listening to yourself, the better you're going to be able to guide yourself in this process of dating. I recently listened to a video about the difference between love and infatuation, and I loved it because the speaker in it, she said this line, and I'm going to say this is number 3 in terms of dating etiquette. And she says, look for someone with all the flaws you can live with and all the virtues you can't live without. And I really love that, because it's very easy for us to like have a list of things that we want, and we never actually think about the things that we wouldn't want but could live with. Because no one's going to say like, I desire someone really exciting and adventurous and creative, but also very messy, or also very unorganized. You know, we think about all of the pros of someone and all of the qualities and the virtues, but we don't think about what balances that out. And often what balances that out is something that comes at a cost. So, you know, yes, if you want the person who's really dynamic, or like, you know, very ambitious, very driven, they're probably not going to have as much time to just be available for you. Or maybe they won't be able to go to every family event with you, because they're out there doing their entrepreneurship. And you have to weigh out those options. And I think when we're able to look at some of the kind of bad qualities that we could live with. Could I live with a messy person? Could I live with someone who was really disorganized? Could I live with someone who was very, very introverted at social events, but completely focused when we're together? Could I live with someone who is super extroverted and at a party is talking to everyone but me, but also, you know, is the life and soul of the party? And it's well worth thinking about all these scenarios, because it's all fine and dandy for us to have a list of all the things we want, but they come with a cost, right? Like, that's just how life is. We're human, we're fallen, like, you know, you get people with amazing qualities, but there's always something that falls short. And that's why it's so amazing how different we all are, right? You know, you have some people who are very like admin talented, they're very structured, they're very processed, and you have some people who are very much like all about ideation and creativity. And together it's so complementary, but you often can't get both. So do think about like, what are the qualities you could live with and what are the qualities you couldn't live without? The next tip is to stop waiting. I know this sounds cliched, but the thing is when you have a full life, and by full, I mean fulfilled, like you're spending your time in a way that just makes your heart sing. Like I just love learning. I'm just such a geek. I get really excited when I want to dive into a new topic, and I look for every single audiobook on that topic, and I listen to it and I read and I research. And for me, it's hard to be bored when I'm doing that, because I feel like I'm growing and I'm learning and it's exciting. And it sounds silly, but I wouldn't date for the sake of dating. For me, even if I'm spending a Saturday night in and I'm learning something, that is only interruptible for the right person, for the right experience, for the right date. And when you're living this life, which is just full, maybe, you're into dancing or horse riding, or you're doing these hobbies, or you're building your own business, or you're starting your own charity, you're doing something in the community, then you'll realize actually when someone comes along who piques your interest, because you're suddenly oh, okay, that person is worth interrupting my life for. And there's something beautiful about that. So yeah, make your life just uninterruptible. You're not dating from a place of boredom. You're not dating from a place of, oh, well, what else am I gonna do on a Saturday? You're coming at it from a place of, my life is full, and someone else coming into it would be amazing, an amazing bonus. And we know obviously as Christians that we can't find our fulfillment in another human, in another person. It can be very complimentary and it can be amazing, and someone can be the path to helping you get to heaven. But ultimately, our ache, our restlessness is for the Lord. And it's taken me a really long time to figure that out, because I was seeking my own value, my worth, my own feeling of happiness in other people. I was seeking it in work. I was seeking it in things that just always ran dry. They always ran dry eventually, even if the first few months, days, years felt really exciting and really oh, this is it, I've made it. There was always that moment of emptiness or disappointment. And that's because, we are all human. And the only one whose well never runs dry is Jesus. And that's been revelationary for me and truly life-changing, because I am responsible for making my life wonderful. I am responsible for how I feel. I am responsible for my mindset, for my health, my emotional, physical, spiritual health. That is not anyone else's responsibility. And God willing, when I have a family, I want to continue having that accountability and that responsibility of my own feelings, my own perceptions, my own mindsets. Because life throws curveballs at you, and it's hard and it's difficult and it's emotionally grueling. And your spouse will hurt you, your children will hurt you, and ultimately, it's you operating from this place where you know your value as a child of God. That's going to allow you to peacefully get through those things. And that's something that we can do as single people. We can really take ownership of our lives, of our own happiness and our own purpose. And that is attractive. Honestly, it has taken me a good few years to get to this place, because I think, when I first realized oh, I've been single for a little while, it really bummed me out, and it really made me feel like I was failing at life. It made me feel like something was wrong with me, or I was doing something wrong. And then I shifted my focus. Instead of obsessing about dating, I came off any, dating sites, anything like that. And I decided, do you know what? I'm gonna just love my life, and I'm going to love myself, and I'm going to create a life that I love. And honestly, I have never been so magnetic. I have made so many new acquaintances, friendships. I have been approached by men in events, in real life. And that has never happened to such a degree as it has now, since I took that step away from being oh, I just want to date because I'm failing at this part of my life, my love life. And I was no, instead of focusing on my love life, I'm going to focus on loving my life. And I just think you exude a joy which is hot and it's attractive. Next tip is to embrace generosity in dating. I feel like this concept of going 50-50, splitting the bill, going Dutch on dates, is actually hampering your dating life. Because the thing is, when we go 50-50, we're really announcing that we are holding something back. We are not showing this spirit of generosity, of excitement, of future potential. And there is something in it which to me just feels very transactional. It feels very distant. Like to the point where I almost don't really even like doing it with friends. Like I almost just feel like, hey, I'll take this one, you take the next one. You know, like there should be this feeling of reciprocity, excitement, and like there is something more coming. When it's 50-50, it's like, I want to make sure I paid only what I was due, because I don't know if this is going to happen again. And obviously I'm not talking about the first few, but in general, when you're dating, there's something, you know, incredibly beautiful about the fact that like you're not holding yourself back. You're putting in 100%. And obviously from my perspective, I do think it's wonderful when a man offers to pay, when he is really pursuing, when a man is coming up with the date ideas and asking you out. I do think there's something beautiful about that. I do also think there's something ancestral about that, something biological. You know, when you actually look at the science of it, women need to understand and see that this man can protect and provide for them because they're more vulnerable. And this is the way it's always been. And men, you know, they're the hunters, right? So there's this element of a chase, which actually is just natural to being male and female. So I personally, don't come at me, do think it's really important that the man does pursue in that way. However, as a woman, I do think like if you really want to do something very specific, it's also nice to say, hey, I would really love to go to the planetarium. Would you be up for going with me? It'd be my treat. You know, something, because it's like a very specific request, it's something that you want, then that's okay, I think that's fine. But also, I'm not here to discuss the balancing of checks, but what I do mean by that is there's something beautiful about just showing that you're in, you're offering 100%, not 50%. And even though we're talking about money here, I think it does seep into the psychology of I'm 1 foot in, you know, and 1 foot out. So there's something really beautiful about just being like, hey, you know what? Even if it doesn't go anywhere, like it was £25. You know, like, I don't know, I just think there's something lovely about that. And the next tip is that love cannot be grasped. It has to be freely given. So if someone is not reciprocating, if they are giving the signs that they're not that into you, they are just not that into you. Don't force it. Don't hold on to it. And I can say this from experience, because it's just like if someone is not actually treating you with dignity, with respect, with excitement, with joy, with that expression of excitement that I mentioned in the first point, then you've got to leave it. It doesn't matter. Just let them not be that interested. You should be bored by that, because it's boring. It's boring to be with someone who's not reciprocating your feelings, right? And the more you try and force it, and although maybe that will work for a few months, maybe even for a few years, it's not the love that any of us deserve. We deserve a freely given love that comes to us freely. It's not out of responsibility or guilt or shame. It's given because it's free and it's excited for you and it wants to love you, you know? So I really just think that forcing anything just isn't the answer. It's just not the answer to force anything, because we all deserve to feel like we've been chosen. And I think that there's something in that which also you'll be able to see in terms of the success and longevity of relationships. So yeah, you have to just be confident in yourself and be like, actually, this person is not seemingly that excited to see me, and that's okay, because that means that they're not the right person for me. And then it's also about adding in discernment. It is so easy when you're dating to just get really excited about someone, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, I fancy them, I like spending time with them. And that's about as far as you can see. But it's also really healthy to discern. And there's an amazing video from Father Mike Schmitz about this, where he asks a few questions about how to, you know, have healthy discernment. And this wasn't about dating, but I think it's really just useful in life anyway. So the first question is this a good choice? And then, is this a possible choice for me? So obviously if someone is in a relationship or something, it's not possible. So you just don't even think about it. Is this a wise and prudent choice for me? You know, is this person aligned with your values? If you're of faith, like, are they also of faith? Is it wise? Is it prudent? And is this a choice I want to make? Again, talking about love being freely given, like we're meant to want to make this choice. And I know some of us, you know, we so desperately want to find our person that sometimes we meet someone and it seems good, it seems nice, and we know it's actually not right. We don't actually want to be necessarily with that person, but because they're a good person, we really try and force it. And that's why you have to ask yourself, is this a choice I actually want to make? Because sometimes we trick ourselves and we fool ourselves because we're thinking about the destination, the end goal, but we're not thinking about the journey. And we're also objectifying the person, right? Because if you're only thinking, I just want to be married, you are objectifying someone, a human being who has a soul and who is like so unrepeatable and amazing, and you're just kind of seeing them as a way of getting, you know, to marriage. So yeah, I just thought those questions were really, really helpful. And finally, I have some questions that I think are really helpful to ask yourself or to ask people close to you, because when you're dating, when you're in a relationship, you really can change. And that's either going to be for the better or for the worse. And people will be able to notice that, and you will be able to notice that, especially those closest to you. So it's worth asking yourself, you know, have I seen personal growth in myself since dating this person? You know, someone who encourages you, who lifts you up, who motivates you, convicts you. And this I also think about in friendships as well, because it's just amazing when people lift you up. And when you come out of a conversation or hang out with someone, you're like, wow, I feel better. I feel better, I feel bigger, I feel wiser. So that's a lovely question to ask. Also, do I like how I act around this person? You know, do you find yourself agitated or rude, or do you find yourself kind and you know, if you're a woman, really feminine and soft? You have to also look at how you act, because I have definitely been in dating situations where I've just not liked the person I've been around that person. Like, why was I so short or so like sharp in my words? And I'm not saying that that's their fault, but it's just a reflection of seeing like, how do I treat this person? How do I rise to treat this person? Because we should always rise to the occasion, and the occasion should always be to love our neighbor, even whether they're gonna be our spouse or not. Do I like how I feel around this person? So, you know, do I feel a sense of peace? Do I feel nervous? Do I feel jealous? Do I feel possessive? Do I feel happy? Do I feel confident? Do I feel comfortable? You know, ask yourself these questions. Can I share my whole self with him or her? And by this, I don't mean physical intimacy. What I mean here is, you know, like I'm really goofy. Like I'm so goofy and playful, and I do like really ridiculous impressions, and I love gaming, even though like I'm a grown woman. And you know, little things like this. And it's like, can you share that with this person? Or are you putting on a facade? Are you only showing 20% of yourself? Or are you showing your whole 100%? And that's just so important, because in a marriage, you want to be each other's best friends, and you want to be able to wholly be yourself as God created you to be, with your funny quirks and your weirdness and, you know, the slight little crazy. You want to be able to show that. Can you share that? And then also, do I feel safe and comfortable being physically close to this person, knowing we both can practice self-control? So obviously, dating from a place of chastity, waiting until marriage, you need to really feel comfortable with the person. Like, I want to know that I could have this person alone in a room where we know we wouldn't get caught or anything, and still trust that he's got my chastity in mind, that he, you know, is still going to act virtuously. Like, I want to feel comfortable. I want to feel like if we were driving home from a date and the car broke down and we're in the middle of nowhere and we're in the car and there's not a soul for like 2 hours, I want to know that I'm safe. I want to know that I'm comfortable. I want to know that nothing untoward's going to happen. Of course you want to feel that with your date. And then lastly, do our major goals and desires align? You know, none of us really know the direction that life is going to take us, but we should have some very foundational goals, visions for our lives, which we would just love. You know, for example, it might be to be open to life. So you want to get married and be open to life, and whatever God gives you, if he gives you triplets, if he gives you a disabled child, if he somehow ends up giving you adopted children, you know, like all these things, you have to just know, like, I know that that's a value of mine, that I'm open to life. Or another value might be, I know I want to raise a family in community. So I know I want to live in an area which has a really good church culture, or where my in-laws live, or where my family live. You know, these are things that are really important to be aligned on, because if you meet someone who they're nomadic and they want to travel the world and they never want to settle in a place longer than 2 months, and you're a homebody, that's not really going to work. And again, sometimes we can trick ourselves into thinking, oh, these things, it's fine, it will work itself out. It so rarely does. It so rarely does, because if someone has something on their heart, it's hard to convert them away from that and move them away from a way of life that they had planned for themselves. Anyway, I hope this has been somewhat useful. Please let me know. I'm sure I've missed things out. This is not an exhaustive list. It's just something that I really felt like I've learned, and I wanted to share with you, because I just think it's going to transform our dating lives if we date from this place of self-knowledge, of kindness, of authenticity, of being genuinely excited for someone, you know, and also just knowing ourselves and being happy to share that with another person. Anyway, God bless, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.